What we're really interested in now is latency, because that's going to be one of the things that sets apart a $1,300 to $1,500 professional system from a $250 to $300 toy.
Any difference in timing you hear between the right and the left is the latency in the Sennheiser EW-DP system.
Now I'm testing the latency of the Sony system. The way I'm doing this is I have the Zoom recorder plugged into my blue microphone. So I'm going to start talking about 2 plus 2, and we're going to yell a little bit while talking about 2 plus 2. Does 2 plus 2 equals 4? Does Curtis Judd know how to do math? Did Curtis Judd go to New York City public school? This is the best that you're going to get. So I'm going to start talking about 2 plus 2, and we're going to yell a little bit while talking about 2 plus 2. Does 2 plus 2 equals 4? Does Curtis Judd know how to do math? Did Curtis Judd go to New York City public school? Okay, now we're talking directly into the Sennheiser EW-DP. I'm recording to the micro SD card inside there. We're going to see if the analog audio electronics work. Are they good or are they shit like the DJI? Ow. Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. So I'm going to do a really weird style review video today. And when I say weird, what I mean by weird is that I'm not going to go over anything about these wireless systems that you will see in other videos on YouTube. I'm explicitly leaving out content that I see in other reviews on YouTube. I'm not going over any of that. I'm only going over the items that I could not find any mention of in other YouTube review videos. So this is not going to be a complete review. Think of it as filling in the gaps from every other review. I wanted to go over these wireless systems. So what set me down this path? I as a public figure over the years, I've had a lot of things said about me in the press, on Reddit, in the news, elsewhere. I've had people say I'm a tax cheat, I abuse my employees, I screw over my customers, I destroy the devices that I work on, and honestly, all that shit rolls off my back. But when you say something about my audio,
he does not like that.
That's fucking unacceptable. I have pride here. I worked at Avatar Studios as a teenager. I used to work on the Neve 31102s, the LA2As, the LA3As, the Studer, not the A27, I think. Yeah, because no, it was the 800, not the A27. 800 or A27. I forget. I'm old. I have a nice set of speakers at home. I have a couple of Axioms that I've refurbished, a set of Teals that I refurbished at the store when I was a teenager, a set of Vandersteen 3As that I refurbished here when I was in my early 20s. I like high-end audio gear and I like good audio, so somebody says something about my audio. That cannot stand. So I went down this ridiculous, just crazy rabbit hole because I needed to upgrade my setup anyway. I have a really old setup that's kind of falling apart. The antenna on one of my systems is literally just like barely hanging on. I was looking through all these wireless systems and trying to find something that made sense. I had dropouts, so I was interested in a system that does recording on the transmitter side so that you don't have dropouts. And the systems that have that are either A, systems that have a lot of latency like the DJI, or B, systems that, the Sennheiser, where you don't have the ability to plug it into a hot shoe mount in the Sony. The systems that do have the hot shoe mount in the Sony are the Sony system, but that has the old Compander system, which fucks with the sound quality, or the DJI system, which doesn't have real 32-bit float like the Sennheiser one. And then there's downmixing to mono, because that's a big one. People want they want mono. They want to hear one thing in one ear and another in the other. And LiveView nor Sony have a feature with their streaming cameras that allows you to do basic downmixing to mono. So DJI and Sony allow downmixing to mono. The Sennheiser doesn't. It's just the entire ecosystem is crazy. So I wanted to go over every element that is missing from other reviews. We're going to be doing the key jingling test so you can hear what keys jingling sounds like in all these different systems. We're going to go over latency. We're going to go over convenience. And we're also going to go over the 32-bit float stuff, because I like 32-bit float. 32-bit float is the idea that if you are not clipping the output of your microphone and you do not clip the microphone preamp, that you are essentially never going to have digital clipping and you never have to set levels. It's beautiful. The Zoom F3 gets this completely right. And then there are other systems that say they're 32-bit, and I'm sure they're technically recording a 32-bit file, but it's a meme because you're not getting the same thing, which is the whole point of it is I don't have to ever give a shit about anything ever clipping, which is the beauty of it. So we're going to test that with some of these systems. I'm going to test the elements that are relevant. Obviously, with the Sony system, I'm not going to be testing the recording quality because it doesn't do that. With the old style Sennheiser system, I'm not going to be testing latency because that's all analog, so there is no latency. There's no analog to digital or digital to analog conversion going on with it. With that, let's get started. Let's get started first with the key jingling test. So jingling keys in front of a microphone is something that will make it very easy to tell the difference in quality between different wireless systems that are not transmitting a lossless copy of the audio, because when you're jingling keys, it's just key jingly, and you'll see what I mean. So I'm going to show you what it sounds like with the Sennheiser EW-DP, which is a newer system. We're going to listen to that with the Sony UWP-D27 wireless system, which is their, I think it's like $1,300 or $1,400 for 2 channels. Same thing with the Sennheiser, $1,300 to $1,400 for 2 channels. You're going to hear that with the old style analog Sennheiser system, which ironically, I don't fucking understand this at all, is $1,300 or $1,400 for 2 channels. Like Sennheiser is selling their old shitty system at the same price as the new good system. Like, don't understand that at all. And with the DJI Mic 2, which is about $300 when you buy it with the Sony hot shoe mount. So let's get to that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to play what it sounds like with the older system that I have, which is usually the Sennheiser EW-100 G3 series. I think I at one point had the G2 back in the day. This is a setup where if you want 1 channel, you're going to pay about $700. If you want 2 channels, you're going to pay $1,400. This is about what mine retailed for. You can find these setups used on eBay for as low as a few $100. You can spend $250 to $300 and get yourself a single channel setup. So if you wanted and you were hunting used, you could spend $600 and get 2 channels. But right now, these systems retail for about $1,400 for 2 channels or $700 for 1 channel. This is the old style system, so I expect it to sound like shit, and here's what it sounds like. That was horrible, as I expect it to be, because that's the old style technology. Now let's check out what the newer Sennheisers sound like, which again, if you're buying new, cost the same amount of money. There was no contest there. The new system destroyed the old system, and like there's not even close. And it's not even like there's money savings to be had here on the new market. On the new market, the old system is a complete ripoff, in my opinion. $700 for 1 channel of old ass style audio that sounds like shit. Now, where the old system comes in handy is on the used market. On the used market, you're not going to find the Sennheiser EW-DP available cheaply at all. People are not dumping these systems. So if I were to go EW-DP Sennheiser, no. This is all like new shit, like almost full price. But with the old system, you can find them for $200 a channel. So the old system, $185, $180, that's where that belongs. That's where the deal is. So if you're going to buy this old system, they are reliable. I do have them. I still use them. But this system should not cost more than $200 a channel. The only reason that Sennheiser is able to sell that system as expensively as it is brand recognition, and people just like it's an iconic look that, you know, when people see this, they just associate that as, oh, that's what the cool filmographer people use for recording shit. And it's brand recognition at that point, but you're paying a lot of money for outdated technology that sounds like shit. Now, with the new systems, something to understand here is you can also find them on sale or a little bit cheaper from time to time, like this. This is the Sennheiser new system that also includes this body pack transmitter. So let's go over what that body pack transmitter does and why that's important. Yeah, so if you were to buy it from B&H, you're going to pay $9.99. If you don't want to pay the B&H tax, you can just head over here and find stuff like this. This body pack transmitter is just like this, except it has a recorder in it. So this one, usually the body pack transmitter cannot have a recorder in it because of these pieces of shit right here, this company. So they patented recording and transmitting at the same time. Like, they patented that. That's actually patentable in the United States of America, which is just like, if Stephen the fact that Stephen Kinsella did not include that in his book on intellectual property, he needs to revise his book to include Zaxcom's patents. So what this can do, because it's a different form factor, is you can insert a micro SD card into this, and then you can record on the transmitter. So let's say that you walk too far away from the camera, you walk too far away from the receiver, or there's some interference in the area. With the old system, you've lost your audio and you're screwed. Whereas with this, it's transmitting the audio wirelessly, but it's also recording a 32-bit float recording over here. So this does 2 things for you. Number 1, you're going to have a copy of your audio in case the wireless transmission drops. Number 2, if there's clipping in the digital realm because of how the gain was set on the camera or anything, this, no clip. And we're going to go over that later and show you how good the 32-bit float is in this. Now, with the old system, if you wanted to do something like that, you would have to have some weird-ass setup like this. This is a Zoom F3 field recorder over here. So you would plug your microphone into the field recorder. This is the microphone. And then the field recorder is going to record it to its own micro SD card. Then you could have a line level output on the field recorder that's then going to go into a wireless transmitter over here that then sends it to the camera. So here, if I wanted to have let's say I was live streaming and I have a live version that I had which needed the wireless, But if I'm going to have a pre-recorded version later, I can grab the good audio off of the Zoom recorder and then not have to deal with the shitty, crappy quality of the wirelessly transmitted audio. Although the downside here is now you're carrying different things. So the microphone is plugging into this is plugging into that. You need a clamp for this. You also have to worry about battery life. Here, you're worrying about one battery. Here, you're worrying about two batteries. And the more shit that you have to worry about, the more you're thinking about the system and not thinking about actually capturing the moment and what is going on. You always want to focus on capturing the moment and not focusing on the fucking technology, because fuck the technology. The technology is there to record the moment. You're not there to just fuck with your technology. There's a saying about audiophiles. It's something like, normal people buy speakers to listen to music. Audiophiles get music to listen to their speakers. And you don't want to be the latter. It's a sad bunch of people. Now, next up, we're going to listen to the DJI Mic, because the DJI Mic is a system that costs $270, which is for 2 channels, which is way less than all these other systems. And we're going to see how that passes the key jingly test. This also has recording built into it, so if there's any gap in the wireless transmission, there's a copy on the recorder, but this does not have removable storage, and the battery itself is also just stuck in there. So this unit, while being much cheaper, is made to be disposable. Now, the DJI system passes the key jingly test, and it does a very good job. Further, the DJI is very compact. This is a 2-channel receiver over here, whereas the Sennheiser stuff, this is a 1-channel Sennheiser receiver. Further, the Sennheiser receiver has to be powered off of the batteries in the inside. I can't power it straight off a Sony camera, whereas the DJI system, I can... Here, this goes into this, which goes into this. And now the DJI is not only sending 2 channels of audio digitally to my camera, but it's also being powered off of it. Whereas with this, I have to have 2 of these hanging off the side of my camera. I have to have inputs into my, I have to have an audio input on my camera. I have to hope that my the audio input on my camera is not shit, but also the power as well. So like I'm gonna have 2 of this, and I have to get shit to hook it up. This is so much more convenient. Again, remember what I said about technology? You can either focus on the technology or you can focus on recording the moment. And when the camera is powering the receiver, I now don't have to think about, did I charge this? Did I remember to charge this? How charged is this? Who gives a shit? Did I carry the right batteries? Is this interview gone on too long? Did I forget to turn the receiver off at the end of the interview when I have another interview later and then think I didn't have to replace the battery? You don't have to do any of that shit. And you may think, well, what kind of moron is going to forget to charge the battery? It'll happen to you someday, mofo. It'll happen to you. So this is another benefit of the DJI unit over the Sennheiser, that you, in addition to the fact that it costs a lot less money, but it is also, as you can tell, that the sound quality of it is pretty nice. Now, where the Sennheiser unit is going to differentiate itself from the DJI unit is when it comes to latency. So listen to the latency in the Sennheiser unit versus the DJI unit. Next up, we're going to be testing out the DJI Mic 2. We've already established that the DJI Mic 2 audio quality is considerably better than the Sony or the old Sennheiser. What we're really interested in now is latency, because that's going to be one of the things that sets apart a $1,300 to $1,500 professional system from a $250 to $300 toy. Fix this in post anyway. You could set it so that whatever the audio latency is that's added by the DJI, you just subtract that once you know it from the pre-recorded track that's going to the body pack recorder transmitter, and just slide it over that way.
Here we are using the Sennheiser EW-DP wireless system, so the blue Blueberry microphone is plugged into the Zoom F3 field recorder. And we have 2 outputs. One line out is going straight to the camera's XLR, and the other one is going to the Sennheiser EW-DP transmitter, which is then going to the receiver, which then goes into the other camcorder XLR. The right channel is coming directly from the zoom, and the left channel is wireless. So any difference in timing you hear between the right and the left is the latency in the Sennheiser EW-DP system. Just looking at the bars, I can tell that this is a again, this is where you're paying the additional $1,000 over the DJI Mic 2, because this system has digital transmission, but it's digital transmission with a latency that's much less discernible.
Well, the DJI does have latency, which is annoying. There are some convenience features that I like with it. The fact that it records directly to the unit is nice. And also, I like the fact that you can do down mixing to mono. So if you wanted to output both of the microphones to the left and the right so that it doesn't sound like I'm in the left ear, the person I'm interviewing is in the right ear, you can do that straight from the interface that it has on it. Whereas if you're using these, you're going to have to get a mixer on your camera like this, because most cameras do not have down mix to mono functionality. If you want to do a live stream directly from the camera, I like live streaming directly from my camera just because you either have to plug it into a computer and use OBS for that or something annoying. But what I liked about the DJI as well is that I can just do down mix to mono directly on there, so that not only here, if I want to do the same thing with the Sennheiser, I have to have two of these, because this is a single channel receiver. I have to have two of these, then I have to have a mixer. So I'm worrying about 3 items and 2 sets of batteries versus 1 item and no sets of batteries. So the DJI really does kill it with convenience, but it does lose me on the latency. That latency is trash. Next up, we're going to be going over the Sony system. So Sony makes something that matches their cameras, and the pricing is fairly competitive with other units. This is the UWP-D27 setup, which comes with 2 B40 body pack transmitters and 1, I think it's URX-P41D. This is the receiver. So this is a dual channel receiver, not a single channel. So similar to the DJI, I just think of it like a big version of this. So this, it goes in here, it plugs directly into a Sony camera. You don't have to have the fucking wires hanging off of the camera. You don't have to give a shit about battery, because again, who gives a shit about battery? Like, this is powered directly off of the camera. You could put batteries in it if you want. You could have a backup, but it's powered directly off of the camera, and it sends the audio directly to the camera digitally, which is really nice. Another area where the Sony wins when it comes to convenience is it also allows down mixing to mono. I can have channel 1 and channel 2 show up on left and right in my camcorder, or I could have channel 1 and 2 show up on both left and right in my camcorder. So if you've ever listened to something on YouTube where the interviewer is coming through the left channel and the person they're interviewing is coming in the right channel, like that's annoying. And most likely it's because they were live streaming directly off of a camera system that does not have down mix to mono available. Most of these cameras, surprisingly, LiveView doesn't have that. Sony doesn't. Panasonic, nobody I've found has a camera system where the HDMI output will down mix to mono, which I don't understand it. But this is something that I would have to put on top of my camera if I'm using the Sennheiser system, which you do not have to put on top of your camera with the Sony system. The Sony system, like the DJI, has a down mix to mono option, so I could send both channels to both left and right, so it just shows up as the center for the person in the audience, which is yet another convenience of the Sony. The system itself costs about as much as the other 2 systems. So this system, if you wanted to buy it, costs $1,340 for 2 channels. The Sennheisers was $600 to $700 for 1 channel. So it's pretty much the same area of pricing. The problem with the Sony system is twofold. A, it sounds like shit. And B, it does not have recording built into it. It's still better than the old style Sennheiser systems like this, because at the very least, you're getting 2 channels of receiver instead of 1. It makes the package more compact, and you have the ability for it to be powered off of the camera, which this old system doesn't. So the Sony is still ahead of this, but you have to keep in mind that the old Sennheiser systems can be found on eBay for about $200, whereas the Sony UWP-D27, yeah, good luck with that one. You're not finding the UWP-D27 on eBay for $200. That's not happening. On the used market, these do not exist. So it's still more expensive than the Sennheiser in reality, even though they're the same price on B&H.com, because most people like to buy things used to save money. You can save money buying the older Sennheiser equipment. You're not going to save money buying the Sony one. Like if you URX-P41D, it's just good luck with that. You're not the receiver without the transmitters is almost $700. So we're gonna go over this one again. The first thing that I'm gonna play for you is that it sounds like shit. Well, let's get into that. Now I'm testing the latency of the Sony system. The way I'm doing this is I have the Zoom recorder plugged into my Blue microphone. The line out of it is plugged directly into my camera, and the headphone out is plugged into the Sony body pack, which is then going into the Sony receiver directly into the camera. The only difference is that the left is wireless and the right is wired.
So this is how much latency the Sony system is going to add.
That has good latency, but it sounds like shit. I've heard people say that Sony's system sounds better than Sennheiser's old system, the analog one, because they do their companding digitally. It still sucks balls to me. In my opinion, that Sony system, it sounds just as shitty as one of these freaking 10-year-old setups you buy for $200 a channel on eBay. It sucks. It destroys the keys, and I also heard it when I was testing it with my own voice. You could just hear that, bleh, it's gross. It's nasty. It's old shit, and I don't think that technology should still be the prevalent technology that's cost $1,400 in 2025. It does have better latency than the DJI unit, though. And what you find out with this whole thing is that you really do have to pick your poison. With the DJI, you get the recording in the transmitter, you get the recorder on the transmitter, and you get good sound quality, but you have latency. With the Sennheiser, you get no latency, the transmitter is a recorder, and you get good sound quality, but you have inconvenience. With the Sony, you have convenience, but you don't have recording, and you have shitty sound quality. So it's one of these areas where there's like this you have to pick your poison. So what it comes down to for me is whose life do I want to make less convenient? The listener, the person I'm interviewing, or me, the cameraman? With the Sony system, I am making the life of the interviewee more miserable, because if I want to have good quality, I have to have a recorder that's mounted on them, and that's gonna carrying more shit, giving them more stuff to deal with. That sucks. With the DJI, that latency may cause there to be a perceptible delay if you're doing a live stream, which means the person listening to the finished product is going to be the person who's inconvenienced. I don't really like that very much. The Sennheiser system inconveniences the life of the camera person. So the camera person now has to deal with more wires. They have to deal with checking the battery on everything. However, I don't care about the camera person. So I am the camera person. Next up, we're going to be doing a review of the Sennheiser's recording capabilities versus the DJI recorder's capabilities. These are both marketed as 32-bit float. Now, the whole meme with 32-bit float is you're just supposed to, you don't set levels, it never clips, it's just perfect, you never have distortion again. And that's complete bullshit. So if my microphone distorts, it doesn't matter if I plug in a 32-bit float recorder. If the output from the microphone is clipped, then the recorder is going to record an unclipped, beautiful version of my clipped microphone output, which will sound like shit. Further, even if I do have a 32-bit float recorder, I could have a 1,000-bit float recorder. If the microphone preamp or the analog electronics inside of a clip, then you're going to have a problem. And here's where you're going to see the difference between a system that's about $750 a channel versus a system that is $300 for 2 channels. The DJI is 32-bit float, as is the Sennheiser, but listen to the difference between the two when I scream into both microphones. The DJI is going to have audible clipping, whereas the Sennheiser doesn't. So what I'm going to do this is I'm going to show you the Zoom F3 versus the DJI, and then I'm going to show you the Zoom F3 versus the Sennheiser, and you'll see that the Zoom F3 sounds different from the DJI, which clips, but the Zoom F3 does not sound different from the Sennheiser, which does not clip. So I'm going to start talking about 2 plus 2, and we're going to yell a little bit while talking about 2 plus 2. Does 2 plus 2 equals 4? Does Curtis Judd know how to do math? Did Curtis Judd go to New York City public school? This is the best that you're going to get. So I'm going to start talking about 2 plus 2, and we're going to yell a little bit while talking about 2 plus 2. Does 2 plus 2 equals 4? Does Curtis Judd know how to do math? Did Curtis Judd go to New York City public school? So this does have 2 channels of 32-bit recording, but it's 32-bit recording. The same way that the transmission of audio, it technically wirelessly transmissions the audio, it just doesn't tell you on the fucking box that it adds like 200 or 300 milliseconds of latency that's clearly audible. This is a toy. It's a really high quality toy. It does a lot of cool shit, but at the end of the day, it is a toy. And the reason I say toy is when you're buying something professional, there are certain things you just don't want to think about. Like if it says 32-bit float recording, I will assume that means that, oh, you're using the benefits of 32-bit float recording because you're advertising it, which is that I don't have to worry about digital clipping. But in order for that to be a thing, you have to not have analog clipping. And this has analog clipping because the transmitters don't have the best analog electronics in. And again, I don't have a right to ask for that for $250. But just to be clear, there's a reason this is a 2-channel 32-bit float recorder that costs $300, and this is 2 channels of transmitter, 2 channels of receiver, and 2 channels of recorder for $249. The reason for that is because this is going to clip the analog stage before you get to the 32-bit recording. So this is providing you with a 32-bit file, and it is a 32-bit float file that's perfectly capturing the clipped analog input stage of this cheap product. Now we're going to move on to the Sennheiser so you can hear how that sounds. Again, for 4 times the money, you should expect that it perform better, and in my opinion, it does. I can't tell the difference between that and the Zoom at all. It does a good job at doing a proper recording. Okay, now we're talking directly into the Sennheiser EW-DP. I'm recording to the micro SD card inside there. We're going to see if the analog audio electronics work. Are they good, or are they shit like the DJI? Ow. I really don't yell much in my personal life. That's actually quite too much for me. That's unclippable. That's beautiful. I tried my best. The DJI gave up very easily, as you heard from the video comparing it to the Zoom. This did not give up at all. I tried, I huffed and I puffed, and I cannot clip this at all. And the best part about this Sennheiser 32-bit float recorder, which is the competent analog audio electronics. So the DJI is technically a 32-bit float recorder, but it's that whole lying versus withholding the truth thing I talked about in the Nix Play video I did earlier in the year. Technically, it records 32-bit float. It perfectly records with no clipping your clipped analog input stage, because the analog input on this just is not, the analog input on the transmitter, the mic preamp, cannot handle what I'm asking it to handle when I'm screaming into the microphone like that. Whereas this can. It has real 32-bit float. And the thing is, DJI didn't lie to me. Like they didn't tell me that they're recording 32-bit float when they were giving me a 24-bit file. They're just not telling me on the product page that the analog audio electronics in it are weak. And again, for the price of it, I can't expect it, but you get the idea. The other thing is this also fits in a pocket, so I can put this in my pocket. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world, but it will fit in a pocket. Whereas if I tried to fit the Zoom F3 in a pocket, like, yeah, you have to push a little bit and then have to figure out a way to get the damn body pack transmitter in the pocket, and that's just... It's a pain in the ass. So this thing is great. You could think of this kind of like a single channel Zoom F3. You know, you don't have as many features or menus and stuff, but it's going to do what you need it to do. And again, if I had to choose, I think I would go with the Sennheiser. There's one thing I don't like about them that I'm going to point out after this, which makes me kind of pissed at them, but I would go with this simply because you get the best recorder out of all these. You have a better recorder than the DJI. You have better latency than the DJI, and you have better sound quality than the old Sennheiser system, and better sound quality than the Sony system. So when it comes to sonic transmission, the Sennheiser kills them all. Also, the Sennheiser is going to perform better in crowded areas than the DJI because of the frequency spectrum that these products use. This is using 2.4 gigahertz, and it's just not... good luck using this if you have 50 people take out their cell phones and turn on Wi-Fi all at the same time. Whereas this one is going to be more resilient in that environment. So the Sennheiser really does win in many of these regards for me. It wins as a recorder. It wins as a sonic transmission. It wins on latency. The area where the Sennheiser loses is convenience. And if they made a Sony hot shoe mount thing for this, but I don't think there's not really a way you could add that after the fact. I'm willing to tolerate having wires dangling and having to deal with another set of batteries. But that brings me to the next part. What makes me sad that the Sennheiser EW-DP wins? The bag of dicks thing they did with the battery. So check this out. When you look at their system that costs $900 over here, you'll notice that they include a rechargeable battery in the box. What's notably missing is the charger. So this is a system that requires you have a transmitter and a receiver, right? 2 pieces. They include 1 battery in the box and 0 charger. So whoever did this, this is breadcrumbing. I don't like that in relationships, and I sure as fuck don't like that with my audio equipment. If you're going to sell this to me, either sell it to me with no batteries, or sell it to me with the batteries that are necessary and the charger. Don't sell it to me with 1 fucking battery missing the charger and tell me I gotta wait another week and spend $70 to get it. Because it's such a blue-balling thing to do. You take it out of the box, you're like, wow, they have a special battery just made for it. I'm gonna charge. Oh, I can't charge it. Because the proprietary fucking charger is not in the box. They're fucking with you. Like, there's no other way to interpret this. Of all the prices that you could choose for your device in 2025 for a proprietary charger to a proprietary battery included in the box, you're going to sell it for $69. $69, not $70, not $68 for proprietary charger or proprietary battery that you don't include the charger for in the box. Fuck you. Seriously, somebody made that decision on purpose. You will never convince me that somebody did not do that, just laughing at how the customer was going to open the box, go, oh, great, I have a battery. Oh, wait, I have to go online and pay $69 and wait a week. Like, whoever at Sennheiser did that, like, shove it up your ass. You probably enjoy it. That's why you put 69 in the fucking battery. That's not even I don't even think that's an insult at that point. Like, fuck you. People lost their shit with the iPhone when they stopped including a charger in the box, even though they included a charger in the box for the last 9 generations. And I understand why, because the bullshit reason, we're trying to save the earth and the environment. The fuck Apple gives a shit about any of that. But I understand what made people mad about it, even though it wasn't as bad as this. This, you're selling a proprietary battery, and you do not even give people the fucking charger in the box when it's $1,000. Like, fuck whoever at Sennheiser thought that was a good idea. Like, whoever decided, make it $50 cheaper and don't include the battery, or make it $100 cheaper, include the battery and the fucking charger. Why would you include half? Why? Like, the customer experience of opening that, oh my God, I'm getting it. Oh. Just like include it all or don't include it all. Like, it's not a big deal. Charge $50 less or charge $50 more. But like, don't breadcrumb people. Don't blue ball people. That's not nice. Anyway, in my opinion, I would say that the Sennheiser is the best, even if whoever made that decision about the packaging is a bag of dicks. I think that the Sennheiser is the best because you get the best combination of the things that matter. You have the best quality sonic transmission, you have the best latency, you have the best recorder. If you have any drops in your recording, you have a perfectly recorded copy onto a competent recorder. And you don't have to worry about a lot of the things that you have to worry about. You get the best of many of the worlds, and I'm hoping that this video helped you figure out which one's best for you. Each of these systems has their uses. If you're broke and you don't really care about the whole recovering from clipping, you just want something where you can get the recording from the transmitter in case the wireless dropped, get the DJI. If you want the best quality audio transmission and the best quality audio recording, get the Sennheiser. If you want the most convenient system that also is at the very least professional when it comes to latency, get the Sony. And if you're going to be doing some event that goes for 6 or 9 hours and you're not really sure how long it's going to last, that's where a combination of the Sony and then one of these body pack things would come in handy. So the thing that I like about the Sony that you don't get on this is the body pack on the Sony allows you to plug in a USB-C charger or a USB-C battery bank so that you can continue using that transmitter for 15 hours, 19 hours, 30 hours at a time. This does not. You will at some point have to turn this off to plug a new battery in. You cannot get infinite time out of this. Whereas if you wanted infinite time and you're a psycho, you could do something like have your Zoom recorder over here with the Sony, because the Sony doesn't have a recorder. You could have your transmitter over here, and then you could have a giant-ass U-Green battery bank over here that would give you many multiples of the battery life. So the Sony does have a use if you want something where you could just literally just record for 2 or 3 days on end, which is not really something that I plan on doing. So the Sennheiser EW-DP is the system that makes the most sense for me. I'm curious which one makes the most sense for you. I would have been able to save a lot of time in trying out all this shit and not had to return crap, not realizing that it didn't work the way I thought it would, if there was any videos on YouTube that went over this. So I'm hoping that this video that goes over all the things that were missing in other videos might help save somebody else some time in buying and sending back stuff because they don't advertise that it sounds like shit, or they don't advertise that 32-bit float is actually a meme, or they don't advertise ridiculous latency. It's nice to have all that stuff up front. I'm certain that this video will continue to cement this channel as an unsponsorable channel that will never receive equipment to review for the rest of its life, and that's okay by me. I just kind of had fun geeking out over this for a few days after seeing my name show up in a newspaper at the fact that I had shitty audio. It was a fun thing to do, and I enjoyed this, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye now.